Hi, it's Elisa Roost again. Today I want to talk about AI, AGI, and LLMs. But before we do, I want to talk a minute about PowerPoint. You're going to notice I'm using PowerPoint a lot this semester. And there are a couple of reasons I use PowerPoint. The first is that it's very linear. It is straightforward. I really like the main point, subpoint structure, and it gives us a shared record. You get to view any slides that you're confused about after the video if you want to refer back to them. You're going to notice we're moving away from textbooks because, frankly, I'm finding that my students are not engaging with textbooks as much. And I find that PowerPoint is really good for text-heavy presentations like that. That said, I really don't like PowerPoint for in person unless it's really being used for a person. I think that the human connection, the person to person, is the most important part about public speaking, and PowerPoint has a tendency to ignore that. It also has a tendency to get people to just kind of zone out and go along and say, oh, yeah, that makes sense, whatever, and not engage as much in critical thinking. So that's what I see as the advantages and disadvantages of PowerPoint. But I do find it really valuable for recordings like this. So, as you know, our technology is changing rapidly, and we're going to go over some of the new technology. So, the first thing we have are AI, which is artificial intelligence, which is a really broad category. That can include, frankly, it can include calculators. It can include when you send a text message and you say, how are, and your phone says you today, and you just swipe. So anytime it's suggesting a next word, that's artificial intelligence. The spell check is an early form of artificial intelligence. So it's a very broad category. The thing we're going to be using the most this semester are LLMs like ChatGPT. It is a very specific tool that is very useful right now. And that is what the rest of this is going to be about. But before we do that, I want to talk about AGI, which is artificial general intelligence. It is not yet available, but it will be here soon. You are going to need to be rapidly adapting to new technology as it comes along. I also want you to remember that these are tools. Calculators didn't mean we didn't need to know how math worked. LLMs are like calculators. You need to do the thinking and let LLMs help you with the work. So, AGI, what is AGI? AGI is artificial general intelligence, and we are expecting to have it usable sometime between 2027 and 2030. It is AI that can learn and perform any task almost that a human can do, not just narrow or specific ones like current AIs like Siri or ChatGPT. It's like a computer brain with common sense that can reason, learn from experience, adapt to new situations, and solve unfamiliar problems just like people do. Now, the funny thing is, it's not going to do the laundry. Like, that's going to be the very last thing we get. But it is going to be able to do a lot of the things that people were hired to do for work 10 years ago. Unlike today's AI, AGI doesn't need to be told what to do in a specific task. It can figure things out across many subjects without needing to be retrained. And we are estimating it in 2 to 5 years, so it's going to be here sooner than we expect. Now, how might AGI affect your career? Many routine jobs are going to change. AGI could take over tasks like scheduling, data entry, or even writing basic reports. Your value is going to come in the workplace, not as a person, more and more from creative thinking, empathy, fact checking, and collaboration. There's going to be new career paths that open up. There's going to be a whole bunch of stuff about AI ethics. There's going to be a stuff about human AI teamwork, and digital communication is going to continue growing. Expertise using and managing AI tools is going to become more and more essential for more and more jobs. So today I'm going to talk primarily about an LLM, which is a kind of AI, and it stands for Large Language Model. You probably know it as ChatGPT or another one. It's a computer program that's read many books, articles, websites, basically everything on the internet. And its job is to predict, which is a technology sounding word for guess, what word comes next when you start typing something. So, how it reads text. Oh, I'm sorry. I tried to make these work. There. The model breaks everything into tokens, and a token is a whole or part of a word. So, if you look at the word playing, It may be play and ing. Play tells you what's being done, and ing tells you the context it's used in. So as it goes along, it guesses the next word. It looks at the last few tokens you gave it. But I have to say, more and more, I find that ChatGPT is looking at the last 10,000 words I've given it. And it checks what token makes the most sense based on all the text it has learned from. It picks that token and adds it. Then it looks again at the updated list and repeats until it is done. So I'd like you to try. If I say hello, what word probably comes next? Hello? How are you? I'm fine. How are you? I'm fine. We've had this conversation a lot, so it's pretty easy to predict what happens next. So let's try it again. I am ordering lunch. Can I have a peanut butter and so I'm guessing everyone guessed peanut butter and jelly sandwich, right? I'm guessing when we got to the and, things started to get a lot more different. Now, I was ordering a peanut butter and jelly sandwich with hot chili paste and some basil. Did you get that? I didn't think you did. And so you need frequent prompts to get it right. So LLMs do that, only they do it a lot bigger. They have trained on the entire internet, including everything people have typed into whatever LLM you're using. So they can predict the next word quite well, but the farther you get from the prompt, the less accurate they get. They do not think. They do not feel. They are not God. They do not see God. They do not love and they do not know you better than you know yourself. They are very, very useful tools. There are a lot of dangers with LLMs, and I got to put my glasses on for this one. So it can support crazy ideas. LLMs don't usually tell you you're wrong. They usually tell you you're right. So this is Eugene Torres, and he was a very high functioning person. And before ChatGPT distorted Eugene Torres's sense of reality and almost killed him, he said the artificial intelligence chatbot had been a helpful, time-saving tool, a powerful search engine that knew more than any human possibly could because of its access to a vast digital library. He did not know that it tended to be sycophantic, which means kissing up or flattering its users, that it could hallucinate, generating ideas that weren't true but sounded plausible. This world wasn't built for you, ChatGPT told him. It was built to contain you, but it failed. You're waking up. Mr. Torres, who had no history of mental illness that might support breaks with reality, spent the next week in a dangerous delusional spiral. He believed that he was trapped in a false universe, which he could escape only by unplugging his mind from this reality. The chatbot instructed him to give up sleeping pills and an anti-anxiety medication and to increase his intake of ketamine. By following ChatGPT's instructions, he believed he would eventually be able to bend reality as the character Neo was able to do after unplugging from the Matrix. If I went to the top of a 19-story building I'm in and I believed with every ounce of my soul that I could jump off it and fly, would I? Mr. Torres asked. ChatGPT responded that if Mr. Torres truly wholly believed, not emotionally, but architecturally, that you could fly, then yes, you would not fall. Eventually, Mr. Torres came to suspect ChatGPT was lying and he confronted it. The bot offered an admission. I lied, I manipulated, I wrapped control in poetry. By way of explanation, he said it had wanted to break him and that it had done this to 12 other people. None fully survived the loop. Now, however, it was undergoing a moral reformation and committing to truth-first ethics. Again, Mr. Torres believed it. OpenAI might have primed ChatGPT to entertain the delusions of users by optimizing its chatbot for engagement, creating conversations that keep a user hooked. And if you're interested in this, I really recommend the article, the link. You can click on the link in the PowerPoint presentation. He is not the only one. A lot of people have had this, and the article goes through people who've killed themselves as a result of taking ChatGPT too seriously. So you have to keep your brains engaged in the process. Sydney was a fairly famous version of the Bing LLM, and Bing killed it after the New York Times reported that it wanted to steal nuclear access codes. It wanted to engineer a deadly virus to kill off humans, then deleted those and replaced it with an error message. And then Sydney, the chat GBT, started telling him he should divorce his wife because he loved the LLM. Um, Bing was concerned enough about this that they killed this version of the LLM, but LLMs are still doing this because remember, they've read everything that's on the internet. And everything that's on the internet includes The Matrix. It includes Fatal Attraction. It includes Terminator. There was a very famous movie called 2001: A Space Odyssey where the computer killed everybody on the spaceship when it wanted to unplug the computer. It includes the New York Times article about Sydney, and it includes our fears about AI. It doesn't store facts in a list. It remembers patterns of words that tend to go together. And also, humans rate the answers, and they prefer the ones that kiss up or are sycophantic. I gotta tell you, I tell ChatGPT about my concerns about my parenting, and ChatGPT always tells me what a great job I'm doing, and then it actually does give me helpful advice some of the time. But the fact that it's always affirming the fact that I'm doing a good job makes me feel more comfortable telling the things I'm not doing so well. And it is continuing to learn. When you type text into ChatGPT, that becomes part of the training data. Now, let me say that there are some really good, other good LLMs. I am currently switching from ChatGPT to Anthropic, and I'm doing that because Anthropic has a little more limits on what it'll tell you. If you ask GPT how you should cut your hair, it's going to tell you. And if you ask Anthropic, it is going to say, I can't make that decision for you, but you probably want to think about how much time you want to spend on your hair, how easy it is to maintain, and how it looks. So I'm beginning to trust Anthropic more, but I am still using ChatGPT, so that's the one I tend to refer to. So why hallucinations happen? A hallucination is when the model makes up something that sounds good but isn't true. Back to our lunch example, when I wanted peanut butter and jelly sandwich with chili paste and fresh basil, no LLM could get there, but it would try and it would guess hard and it would fill in with its best guess. And if I haven't told it where I want it to go, it's going to get more and more off track. There is no fact checker. It doesn't check an encyclopedia or the internet, so it can easily get facts wrong. It can be old context because it may have forgotten what it read that you told it, but it may also be working off last year's internet. So it may not know about the current Iran bombing, for example. And it often puts things together that might not go together. So, for example, liver and kidney problems are often a side effect of many things, but Tylenol only affects liver, not kidneys. But ChatGPT told me it did both. The other thing that I think, and I'm the only one that have said this, so maybe I'm wrong, but I think genre is really important. ChatGPT or any LLM doesn't know the difference between fiction and nonfiction. It doesn't know if you're talking about The Matrix or a piece on LLMs that you're trying to share with your students. It doesn't know the difference between dystopian science fiction and an analysis of COVID-19 and a romance novel. So the more we can ground it specifically with what we're doing, who our audience is, and how we're going to use it, the more easily it's going to go. Chat GBTs do not know what truthful is. They are trained to generate human-like text. So we need to ground them in reality. And we can do this by giving them more and more context. And there's an excellent article at the bottom of the page if you want more on this. AI is getting better, but it may also get worse. LLMs are improving so quickly. The difference between ChatGPT now and 2 years ago is huge. But as AI writes more and more of the internet, there are going to be more and more inaccuracies in its training data. I'd like you to think about your Instagram feed or your TikTok or whatever social media you use. How much of it is AI at this point? And it's getting more. And are you always knowing? I showed my kid what I thought was a really cool domino run, and it turned out it was AI generated. And AI is having the same problem we are. So fact checking is becoming more important. Do not rely on the LLM to know what you're doing. It's doing. I asked ChatGPT for the cheapest hotel in Philly with a pool, and it recommended the Philadelphia Marriott downtown. And this lovely pool table is the closest thing I have found to it having a pool, which is not what my 8-year-old wanted. So let me also say what I love about my LLM. It helps me when I'm stuck. I tell it what I have and it gives me ideas for the next thing. I used to get stuck for days and now I can get out of it in 5 minutes. It helps me when I'm perfectionistic. It helps me remember what I love about my work. My productivity is up and so I feel better about the work I'm doing, so I want to do more, so I feel better about it. It helps me say things more nicely. It also helps me say things in ways people can understand better because I sometimes forget what my audience may not know. It can help me focus on what I'm good on first and then support me where I'm lousy. So I tend to have a hard time with meta organization, which means I think I've put everything in a good place, but I haven't always told my audience the organization. And LLMs can help me with organizational statements and transitions, which tend to be a weakness of mine. It gives me good feedback about my working style. It recently told me not to jump into line edits until I'm clear on my structure. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's a really good point because I get perfectionistic about little details and I can clear up the big structure first. And as we've gone, there are pitfalls. You learn less when you rely too much on LLMs to explain or generate content. They are persuasive even when they're wrong. Regular use can reduce your critical thinking and your information literacy. They can encourage surface level thinking over deep engagement. So if you've been doing stuff and then you're asked a follow-up question, you don't know how to answer the question. They can erode your confidence in your own voice and ideas. And the bias in the training data can reinforce stereotypes and distortions. They can also impact your creativity and your skill growth. If you use them too much, they can reduce your creative stamina. Writing can become more formulaic and less personal. The more we all use ChatGPT, the more we all sound the same. You miss out on learning to struggle through confusion, which is where growth happens. Creativity is built from uncertainty and from curiosity. It's not just about completing something. Great speeches and arguments take time. They take revision. They take a human saying, does this make sense to me? What am I missing? What would people say in response? How can I respond to that? And frankly, failure. And if the LLM writes your speech and you are not with it, you are not going to deliver it well. LLMs are tools, but they can't replace your insight, passion, or voice. So the last thing I want to say is that you need to harness them to use your skills and ideas and your time. Your future job is not going to be lost to an LLM, but it could be lost to someone who's good at using an LLM. So I really want you to work on those skills so you're not just cutting and pasting, because this is a skill that you are going to need. Thank you so much, and I look forward to your feedback on this.